Hello chess fans! Today I wanted to go over a game I played in the Reading Week Open. So I think this is a pretty interesting game because I got a nice position out of the opening, but I managed to mess it up pretty quickly. So the game started off with e4, e5, and one thing I wanted to mention is in this video I'm just not going to use the engine, so you're going to hear all my thoughts organically, and then I might just look at the engine at the end of the video. I think this is a little bit of a better change than what I did in most of my other videos. So knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, we see the Italian. I decided to go for knight f6, and I think knight f6 is sort of a more flexible move because, for example, if you go for bishop c5, they can go for this line, which is very popular recently. Not to mention, after knight f6, you can also go for h6, d6, and g6, or you can even go for g5, as Hikaru did in the candidates. Okay, so here my opponent went for d3, but I decided, okay, I don't want to go for any of this h6, d6 stuff. I just went for bishop c5, transposing, but just allowing different lines. Also, if you go bishop c5, you have to be prepared for the Evans Gambit. While if you go into knight f6, the only pretty much sideline you have to be prepared for here is knight g5. So that's pretty much the only difference. Okay, sorry, but I went d3, bishop c5, c3, this is all natural, a6. So two ideas here. First off, I want to put the bishop on a7 to not get hit by d4, but also I'm controlling the b5 square. So possibly if I get knight a5 in the future, it could trap the bishop. So my opponent is immediately prophylactic and plays bishop b3. So for example, if they castle d6, and they go knight bd2, maybe here I immediately have this. Though maybe they have d4 if I do this, so probably I have to go bishop a7 first, and now if they go h3, now I have knight a5. So, okay, instead here, after bishop e3, I went bishop a7, so anticipating d4, and so they went knight bd2, so they can't play d4 anymore, but they're looking to get a quick maneuver. And the idea of knight bd2 is not to castle immediately, so it's a little bit of an aggressive idea, maybe to go h6, g5. So here I went for d6, and yeah, I think, in hindsight, maybe here I should just castle with the idea to go d5. And we're going to see why in the game, because after d6, my opponent goes h3. And now here I'm finally realizing what his idea is. He wants to go g4, knight here, knight g3, queen e2, and then like knight f5 and then start attacking me. And this is the exact type of thing where I would rather have white. So the way to counter this usually is to try and break in the center. So I realized, okay, well, I can't play d5 now because I just gave him this free h3 move. That doesn't make any sense. So let's go for bishop e6. So now we have a clear threat, like we're threatening to exchange bishops, and notice he's not winning a pawn with queen b3 because, I mean, for one, I think I can probably just go queen c8, but I think even queen d7 is a fine move after takes here, and knight h4. I'm pretty sure I have full compensation here because it's going to be very difficult for him to castle. Like immediately if he castles, I can go knight f4 attacking here, and he has to defend it somewhere. d4 hangs the pawn, so queen c2, and then queen f7. He can't move this knight anywhere because then I have knight h3, and then queen g6 is coming, so lots of threats here. So that's how quickly the position can turn out around if white gets too greedy, sorry. So instead here he went knight f1, which makes a lot of sense because the idea is to complete the maneuver, and also he's still keeping his option open. For example, here if I castled, I'm 100% sure he would have gone g4, or maybe he might have gone queen e2 first. But he would have at least very much considered g4. And here I think g4 might be better because I can't even go d5 because then he has g5. Or I can still do that, but it might be a little bit more risky. So instead, after h6, again here, I think I should just continue d5. I was afraid of bishop g5 though. h6, bishop e3, I took. I think I have to take, otherwise I'm going to have to misplace one of my pieces here. So takes, he goes knight takes. Now his knight doesn't come to g3, but e3 is just as good as square, and here I went d5. And at this point, I'm probably equal. But it's still a very strange position because it's not usual that black has significantly more space and white has pretty much no counterplay to talk of. Not to mention that this knight on e3 is typically bad against e5 because usually the knight can come to e4, and then there's ideas like bishop takes, h6 takes here, and then some tactics on this and the d5 pawn. So usually the knight wants to be on e4 or d2 to go to c4 to put pressure on this pawn, or on e4 to put pressure on the king side. So this is a little bit of a weird setup with the knight on e3. I went queen d7. Now, queen d7, the idea is I don't want to castle right away because then it makes his idea pretty clear. I'll go queen d7, and after a4, a4 is sort of a move that discourages castling queenside. But yeah, take a few seconds to see if you can find what you would do here as black. So there's a few candidate moves. I think pretty much the two most obvious ones are either castles queenside or castles kingside. And one of them is significantly better than the other. And also another move you can consider here is d4. But I think d4, I'm not really entirely sure why it's bad, but I just feel like it's a little bit too early. We shouldn't really be opening the center while our king is in the center. So if you found the best move I did play in the game, I remember this, it's castles queenside. And the idea is castles kingside is way too risky. After g4, he's going to get a full-fledged attack with knight f5, and his pieces sort of make sense. So we should really be going for this move, castle queenside, where he went a5 and now his attack is just way too slow. Like b4, b5, I'm opening the center quick enough. And now here it's actually very difficult to find a move because, okay, my next move, I was considering playing knight a5 in some positions, like with rook e8, takes maybe here, and then knight a5, but now he's kind of gotten rid of all those ideas with a5, and also he's starting b4, b5, where I don't have any a5. So here I went d4. Now I go for this d4 move because I'm fully developed, and after bishop takes, queen takes, this is, I think, forced. I was also calculating this move knight c4, but it hangs this pawn. Though granted, he does have here, so maybe... Do I take first? What do I do on knight c4? Maybe takes, and he will go knight takes e5. Okay, maybe then just takes, and takes here. And then after bishop takes, queen d4, there's knight f7. Okay, so there's a lot of tactics here. Queen d4 or knight f7, maybe takes here. Rook b1, takes on d3, attacking the queen. Takes, but he takes this. It's very complicated. There's a lot of tactics here. So knight c4, there was some sort of good move here. Maybe it's just queen e7. Yeah, I think queen e7 is probably the move. And it's just simple because you can't take here because I go takes, and then takes here. And then after queen takes, I pick up the piece. And if he takes here, then I can just take here. And after takes, if knight takes, same thing. And now he just has this weak pawn here. So that should probably be it, I think. So yeah. After d4, knight c4 is not so good. So instead he went takes, and now he went knight f5, which I think is another mistake. I think here I was also expecting knight c4, in which case we would get something similar after, like, I don't know, rook e8 or something. Or even knight d7 is reasonable. But again, he's never getting this b4 because I just take here. So he instead went knight e5, but now I go g6. And now, okay, where's the knight? The knight is just terrible here. The knight has gotten off this bad e3 square, but now black just has more space and a better position. So here I went for a good move, which is queen d6. And my opponent played a bomb cloud here with king e2, but it's actually like a very reasonable move. I don't think it's the best. I think he should have just castled queenside. But I think my opponent was afraid of that he's going to get some tempos played on him, and the attack on the queenside is not so fast. Not to mention, if you go for c4, maybe even immediately you have problems with like queen b4. And then queen d2, knight d7, knight c5. I'm coming in on all these squares, and my position looks very, very nice. So yeah, it's understandable why my opponent played king e2, so that there's no threat here, because now this is defended. So now rook d7. Rook d7 is a very lazy move, I would say. Ideally, I'm wanting to take here with the queen, but then he might have mate if he brings the rook to c1. So very prophylactic, but also just a little bit improving. So here he defends his pawn, which makes a lot of sense. And here I go for this move knight e8. And yeah, maybe here... I haven't actually checked past this with the engine at all, so I have literally, this is just my pure thoughts, but this was my idea sort of to get the knight into the position, but maybe it was a little bit too slow. Maybe it's possible that I should have gone rook d8 first. And it's with the idea that sometimes the knight can actually threaten some sacrifices. Like if I go h4, h5, and this knight can come here. Like h4, h5, this knight can't move because then maybe I have here. Like, there's a lot of different ideas. Not to mention I could go here and threaten knight b4 and then takes... and then knight takes d3. That's another idea. So I think that really immediately I could have just tried to pile on. And again, always if this move c4 is played, I'm incredibly happy. He has no attack on the queen side, and I can go like rook e7, I can go h5, I can go knight d7 here, I can go queen c5 pressuring here. So yeah, a lot of good moves if he goes c4 ever. So yeah, here I think knight e8 was a little bit slow, but it's not a bad move per se. So my opponent went king f1, which makes a lot of sense because now he's fully defended here. I went knight g7, I'm looking to go knight e6. And now, okay, he has to take here. And yeah, here I kind of underestimated this here. I really expected this move rook c1, and after knight e6, I'm just completely dominating. But I think my opponent saw that that was very bad for him, so he went c takes, knight takes, queen takes. And here he went for this move knight e2. So yeah, so actually I made the first mistake with queen takes. I maybe should have asked you to pause the position, but it looks incredibly natural. And especially as an e4 player, I've played many Sicilians, I know that, okay, when you get this and they don't, you trade all the pieces, and you get a knight to e6, like you're completely winning basically. But here it's a little bit different because usually the knight's on f3, and usually the queen's not the one blockading. So here my opponent goes knight e2, and here I start seeing, during the game I was really getting nervous. Like I see many ghosts, because at this point I had lost my first game, drawn my second game, and my second game I was completely lost, and then I completely swindled my opponent, like into a draw. Not swindled, but they just missed one of my resources. But yeah, here I got really nervous because I saw that if I go queen b4, I was afraid of this move rook a4. And when they're attacking my queen, I didn't see anything except to go back to d6 to try and hold this. But then after d4, like, they just get a tempo up as if I went queen d6 right away, right? So I thought about it for a long time, and then I thought, okay, queen d6 makes a lot of sense to me, and I ended up playing that. Now, it turns out, after queen a4, rook a4, I don't have to go back to d6. I don't know why. I didn't even see I could go back to queen e7. Sorry about that. Okay, but yeah, I didn't even see that I could go back here. But this seems to be a very good move, because now after d4, for example, I can go takes, knight takes, and rook d8, and there's really no way to get out of this pin. I'm either going to go queen e5 next, or knight e6, or c5, or any one of these moves to put pressure here. Probably not c5, because then I'm in a pin. But maybe knight e6 and queen e5 to put pressure on this pin, and the knight can't move. And if he ever goes back, I'm not sure, maybe I have queen d6? Or maybe I can even just go queen e5, and after he moves, I can trade everything, and then take my choice of any of these 3 pawns that I want to win. So yeah, I saw that. I didn't see that, sorry. So instead I went queen d6, d4. Now, yeah, now here you can see after queen e7, I just completely lost the tempo. So like, these are sort of the inexplicable mistakes that, okay, up to this point, I've played the game like very well throughout the opening, but then it's just like, I have no idea what I was thinking here. Like, I have no idea why I played queen d6, because queen b4, queen e7 just looks so much better, and it has the same idea as I had in the game. So now queen e7, rook takes d7, queen takes d7. This is all natural. Here I went queen e7. So here I've lost multiple tempos. And again, here maybe I didn't spend any time on this move. I think I spent literally 4 seconds on this move. But yeah, here I should go queen e8. And it's with the idea, like, after he does what he does in the game, when he went knight d5, he gets a tempo on my queen. And now he doesn't get the tempo on the queen. Not to mention, after queen e7, another option he had was queen c3, which is I was really worried about, because I think I have to go for this move rook g8. And then, okay, he just gained a full tempo, and now he can go like knight d4 or something. Or even like, well, okay, sorry, his pawn's hanging now. So he has to go rook d4 and rook d2. So even this was scary. Okay, but knight c3, I went knight e6 now, and now knight d5, and I went queen c5. So maybe a little bit better than going queen e8 my idea was to go queen c5, but okay, here with queen e8, if he ever goes knight c3, I have this pin. And then if he ever moves the queen, for example, at least I have queen c4. This is like minimum. And then knight e6 followed by here. Oh, I do not have queen c4 because he has queen d7. So I'd have to go knight e6. And then after, I don't know, maybe knight here, then I could, oh, I can't because of the fork. Yeah, so this is actually still a very, very, very difficult position. Maybe here queen d6. But then he can move this, and now there's threat of knight b6. So maybe king b8. Yeah, king b8 looks good. So yeah, still it's very complicated, even if you play the best moves at this point, which is a fault of me playing bad moves earlier. But yeah, here I went for this endgame, and I really underestimated this. So when I went into this endgame, I thought it might be like plus 0.1 or plus 0.2. I thought it should be very, very not that good for black. Or sorry, not that good for white. But it turns out that, yes, this endgame is like plus 0.4, but it is extremely difficult for white. Like, all my pieces, my pawns are basically locked down by this A pawn. This knight is a monster. These pawns are rolling up the king side very quickly, and I think I very quickly get a lost position, surprisingly. So here, king e2, and I highly recommend, if you're a strong player, to like take a few seconds to see if you can find the plan that draws. Because I did find a drawing plan, but I found one where you have to pretty much walk on thin ice, and I wasn't able to do it. So I think, like, pretty much the easiest thing to do is actually just to do nothing. Like, to just go like rook d8, and then go like rook d6, king d7, maybe c6 once I'm no longer pinned, and then yeah, we're just doing fine if we control the d file. I'm pretty sure, at least. But here I went for c6, which is just, okay, it weakens the b6 square. But more importantly, okay, now he's threatening rook d7. If I go knight c5, there's b4. And okay, there's not much to calculate there. Like, if takes rook d7 is just like game over. So I have to go rook d8, and now takes, and now I've made it so much more difficult for myself. Also, I could have taken here, but I thought the king, it mattered to get into the game. So here I went c5, protecting the king from here, and I thought after f4, I thought here after knight c6, I was doing fine. Apparently here I have like a miraculous save. I'm supposed to king c6 and king b5, which just looked pretty suicidal to me. And I'm trying to remember why it looked so bad. For one, I think he can go knight c4, and if I ever go king c5, there's some knight d6 ideas. But actually, knight d6 my pieces are defended. So what was I worried about? I remember I saw something. I saw a ghost at least with this move. Oh yeah, king d3, king b5, and king knight c4. This is sort of what I was thinking. And then if I go for knight c6, he can go e5, and this endgame is actually just lost for me. I think, for one, he has king c4, but then king c6. So is it lost for me? Takes, king e6. Maybe it's not. What was I afraid of? Knight c6, not e5. Oh, okay, yeah, now he has this. Yes, that's it. Yeah, king d3, king b5, c4, knight c6, and knight here. So this is what I was afraid of, but I think that king c6 might be a better try. So I went knight c6, which just after knight c4, I'm just absolutely lost basically, because I have no way to stop this plan of e5 and knight d6. And then once he gets a knight to d6, the king to e4, king to e5, I don't even have the ability to go king d5. So here I'm just completely lost, and I have really no idea how to save this. So I went for f6. I mean, now if e5, at least this should be drawing. So instead of that, he can't go e5. So instead he went g4, and I think if he goes to e5, yeah, g4 is the correct move. But I think if he takes with the knight, this should again, I think, be drawing, but maybe it's not drawing. Maybe I'm winning here. No, he has a way to get rid of my opposition. Yeah, because his pawns are less advanced than mine. So I guess that would be losing. But yeah, I don't even have to go there. I can go knight here and then look for this. So that should also be drawing. So he shouldn't go e5, shouldn't rush. So he went g4 and king d7. And here I got really lucky. Here I think is the exact moment where my opponent, I think, pretty much blundered a lot of the advantage away. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure he might still be winning, but it just made it much more difficult for himself. So take a few seconds to see if you can find the best move for white. I think it's pretty difficult, so I'd highly recommend taking a lot of time here because, okay, it's clear white can sort of improve forever. Like they can go b3 and like h4 maybe and h5, but these moves don't really have a plan attached to them, or they can go like king d3, maybe the king's better somehow. So just try to find the actual forcing move, which is either f5 or e5 or g5. One of these three moves. He's a little bit better than the other ones. Okay, I don't think g5 is actually even a move because I just win the free pawn. But f5 or e5, both of these are the moves that have to be looked at. So I think f5 is completely winning. And it's the reason because I think f5 is winning is because, okay, I can't take. If I take, I mean, at least he can take here and then try to bring the king in. And I can't even approach with my king and I lose his pawn. So I can't take. I have to go g4 to prevent this from coming forward. And now, it seems, how does he get his king here? And at first, that's what I thought too. But then I realized, like after a few minutes of thinking, he has e5. And I'm just completely lost. And I just don't have any moves. I'm pretty sure. Because, okay, let's say I take with the pawn. He goes here. And next he goes here. And I'm just completely lost. So let's say he takes with the knight. I take, go king here. And now I go king here. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing well. b3. I'm up a pawn, but I'm completely lost. I can't go king c6 because then he takes here. If I go c4, he takes here. I'm still in zugzwang. So it's just a crazy zugzwang I have with this. And if I don't go king there, like let's say I go like king here, then he just picks up this pawn. So I think, I'm pretty sure at least what I calculate in the game is f5 is that I'm just completely lost. I have no moves. Like I have to take here. And then here I think I would have to go for this move knight here. And on king here I can't move the knight because it's covering the only square. And now after here he has this move 95 now even. Or maybe he doesn't have this. Does he? I can't fully remember. But now I'm seeing knight f4. And if I go here. Yeah, I mean, I saw something similar to this I thought was winning. But like now it doesn't look so clear anymore. Yeah, this is anything but clear actually. Maybe he shouldn't sack right away. Yeah, maybe this position is actually not that bad for me. I can maybe go for something similar though with here too, but this also just frees up the position without sacrificing a pawn. So here king c7. Okay, maybe here, and here. And then yeah, now he has to trade. Though actually then I have king d6 the second he plays that. So yeah, maybe this was still not that bad. I'm sure we can find something with the engine after e takes. Maybe it's still not that bad, but okay, anyways, he played e5, which was, at least for me during the game, I thought was a big relief because now I have f5. And at first it looks like, wait, like didn't you just allow a fork? But the problem with saying that I allowed a fork is you don't realize that finally my passed pawns are mobile. So here I still think he was winning, but I think it becomes like very, 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 very difficult to win as white from this point. Like it's much easier. My defense is all forced. Like I have to play these moves or else I just completely lose the game. So here he took. And yeah, again, I think I don't take here because at least here I think I might have been worried about f5. And then we might be transposing something like this here. But actually, no. This is now all of a sudden good for me. So what was I afraid of? Not f5. Oh, maybe just this endgame? I thought was losing because if here he gains the tempo. And if I go g5 here, now he gains the tempo. So yeah, this was losing. He gets opposition. So I can't take. I have to go f5. G takes, knight d6. Takes here. And here I was a little bit relieved. Not because I thought I was drawing yet, but because I thought that now my moves are a lot easier. Because from this point, knowing which pawn to push, like every single pawn push feels difficult. But now, okay, it's a little bit easier. So we get this. And now king d5. And now here I have to be incredibly accurate, clearly. And there's so many different things to calculate. I feel like this could totally be in an endgame book. Like, it's just so very difficult. I'm not even sure what's drawing right now myself. So, okay, the first thing that comes to mind is c4. Obviously, we want to try pushing our passed pawn, and it's defended by the knight. So, what can be the problem with this? Okay. Excuse me. e6. And now all these squares are covered, so I probably have to go back. If I go back king d8, then he goes here. And now I'm completely lost. If I keep pushing, check here, and he makes a queen. So I can't go king d8. So let's say I go king here. Then again here. Let's go c3 again, e7, here, and now knight g7, and again, I'm too slow. So if he pushes with e6, I have to go king c8, which is maybe a little bit counter, or sorry, I have to go king c7, not allowing king d6, and now if he goes e7, now I block him, and now I'm just in time. I promote, he promotes, and now I go here. Very key move. And I don't know if he has mate here. Maybe he has mate. Check here. Knight d6. Here. Queen e7. Now I have to go king c6. And I don't see any mate. So at least now I have time. But then I ended up rejecting this move c4. Not because e6. Was it because of e6? Excuse me. E6 here. There was a move. I remember I saw something here. Oh yeah, I think I might have been worried about king d4, but then that looks like it's such an easy draw after b5. Maybe the immediate king e5 here, and now knight d4, knight here. Is this what I was worried about? And then now I'm winning. I think, yeah, maybe this is what I was worried. I was worried about knight d4, but now maybe I can even go here. Yeah, okay, I think I was worried about knight d4. So instead I went for knight d3, which looks to make the most sense, defending my pawn and attacking here. And after e6, I went king c7 here. I thought I was pretty easily drawing. So I think his big mistake was with this move king d4. I think maybe he should just grab the pawn right away or something. And then after here, he has two passed pawns. And it's a lot more dangerous maybe. But even after c3, am I winning? Check. Here. I mean, okay, this position is just insanely wild. But here I think I'm winning. So maybe not knight takes h6. Yeah, it's very difficult to see where my opponent went wrong. King d5 here. e6. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where my opponent went wrong. Somewhere here, I'm sure he was winning, but okay, now I get a sort of easy draw. Now here, I had two moves. Either I could go knight takes h3, or I could go knight h5. Knight h5 I thought was easier, because now if he ever goes king c4, I can go like here and knight here and knight here. And now my knight's attached to the king, and now this pawn is rolling. So here I think my opponent finally realized that it's time to stop winning the game. They went knight f5, I went c4, and now they went king d4. And now, okay, I have no chance of losing the game. I went b5, h4, a5, and knight e3, and here we agreed to draw because I don't have any way to stop knight takes c4, takes, and then winning this pawn. So I would probably pick king d6, and after takes, I have no way to protect the pawn. If I go here, he can go e7, and then I have to go here, and then he wins the pawn, and it's a draw. So yeah, very eventful game. So now we're going to look at what I thought about the game with the engine. Okay, so e4. Sorry about this. My throat is getting very, very dry. So e5, knight c6. This is all normal according to the engine. d6, bishop e6 is a move. h6 is also a move. Castles is a move. I'm curious to see, what does this castle say about g4? Okay, g4 is just not a problem ever because of d5, I guess. But even knight f1, and now if here, there's never. The engine is just not afraid of g4, but I think as humans, we're afraid of it. h6, okay, h6 is not a good move. Yeah, I should have gone d5. Take 6, d5. Queen d7 is also not a good move. I should just castle. a4, and yeah. Castles is not bad because of g4 at all, but bad just because he castles and then his position makes a lot of sense. Okay, but d4, bishop takes here, takes, knight f5. Yeah, knight c4 is bad because of queen e7. Yeah, okay, I was right about that. So g6, knight g3, queen d6, king e2, and here, yeah, I have a really nice move, h5, threatening h4. Again, with, like, let's say here, h4, knight f1, and oh, knight h5, yeah, that would be very nice. Okay, but yeah, instead knight e8, and again, also, rook hd8 is superior here with all these different ideas. Knight g7, c takes, and yeah, here I had e takes. So yeah, I didn't know this, but apparently this move e takes is very strong, which is a little bit weird to me because it just gets rid of the weakness, but it seems like he has problems defending some squares on the king side, and I can attack easily, while he can't really attack whatsoever. Takes, yeah, here, and yeah, again. Queen b4, was this correct? Rook a4, and yeah, queen e7. Yeah, I don't know how I missed this. But instead I went queen d6, and yeah, this is bad, because after d4, oh, I shouldn't even take. Yeah, I should go f5, which is, yeah, I didn't even consider this move for 1 second, actually. d5 looks natural. Takes, knight c3. Oh, e3 is very good for me. Okay, well, okay. I made a big mistake here, and then yeah, here I lose like 7 tempos. And yeah, here, queen e8 was, oh, it's about the same. Actually, never mind. So here, queen, yeah, again, queen c5. Like, I needed to pin this, not to allow knight d5. I'm not really sure. I was playing so bad in this position. And then here, I get very lucky. So c5 is good. So yeah, oh yeah, so I was right about king c5, knight c4, king b5, king d3. This is what I was saying. And knight g6, there's knight d6. So yeah, this was all correct. This is bad, but here apparently I have f6 with the idea of e5 takes, f takes, knight e6. And he's kind of in zugzwang too, because if he goes b3, I can start picking up this. Okay, that's hard to see, I guess. But instead, knight c4, knight c6, knight c4, f6 is only move, g4, king d7 only move, and yeah, only winning move is f5. And then if g5, e5, yeah, completely winning. Takes king e4. And if knight takes, then just knight takes, and then zugzwang. As I said, yeah, so I saw this during the game. And so yeah, my plan was to take, and yeah, I was right. Okay, engine says +1. I don't really see how to make progress here after king c7. h4, king c6. Because g5, like, this is not clear at all to me. And then knight f6, knight d7. This is not at all clear. Or, okay, knight here. A knight can usually hold the passed pawn against the king, I think. Or maybe it can't. Yeah, maybe this is just lost too. So, instead of that, I should go knight d4. with the idea. King c6, and now if he starts pushing, knight b5, and oh, okay, then he gets there. Takes, f6. Okay, so there's a lot of still drawing chances. Okay, but e5 is okay, a slight mistake. Now takes here. And now, okay, now I'm drawing actually. I'm not lost. Knight c4 takes here. And okay, king d5 is a blunder, but there's knight e3. So to prevent knight c4, okay, makes a lot of sense. Now if c4, king d5, c3 would draw. That makes sense. But if knight e3, c4, I'm supposed to go king c5, f5. To help the pawn up this way. So yeah, that's very unintuitive. King d5 looks natural to me. And yeah, c4 is completely losing after e6 here, e7, king d7, king e5, c3, king f6, c2, and knight d6. Oh, knight d6 here. Oh my god. I'm not sure if I saw this during the game, but maybe this is why. Because I remember I saw that this was losing somehow, but I couldn't remember why during this recording. But yeah, I think I saw that. So knight d3, e6, and yeah, king c7, only drawing move. Takes here, and can I take the pawn? Yeah, I can take the pawn. Because if e7, knight d7, king f6, knight g5, yeah, and he can't approach, which is, again, a little bit hard. But if I miscalculate anything about this line, I lose. And I mean, here I even have chances to win. So maybe I should have gone for this. I could have even won. But yeah, now it's just my opponent can just sack and draws easily. So yeah, that's the end of today's video, guys. If you liked the video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, my throat's getting a little bit raspy, so I'll see you guys in the next one.